हरि ओम। ओम श्री चिन्मय सद्गुरुवे नमः। Discourses on Kenopanishad by Param Poojya Gurudev Swami Chinmayananda. Contents: Preface, Introduction, Vedanta, the religion of detachment, our relationship with the Absolute, the path, law of karma, the Upanishads, Chapter 1, the teacher and the taught, self-purification, sincere pursuit, chains that shackle, the seer, mind of man, the center of the center, a caution. Chapter 2, the pure truth, the dream mirage, kill the ego, the goal, now and here. Chapter 3, the inner essence. Chapter 4, conditioned Brahman, self-perfection technique. Appendix, rise and fall of man. Preface. It is quite often contended that science and religion are opposite to each other. The protagonists of science and the so-called rationalists maintained that religion is unscientific and superstitious. It is surprising that the man of science, who is supposed to have an intimate knowledge of the baffling universe, should try to maintain that the whole of the reality and the truth is amenable to his methods. An attempt is made in the following pages to show that science and religion are not necessarily opposed to each other. Religion at its best is an attempt to investigate a field which is not amenable to the method of science. A man of religion is not necessarily opposed to science. On the other hand, he also adopts the same attitude of a scientist, the attitude of experimentation, observation, and inference. The field of inquiry is different. The nature of the problem to be investigated is different. Therefore, it would be futile to expect the same instruments of science to be useful in this field. In the field of religion, the seeker after truth adopts different methods of experimentation, observation, and inference. It should be commonplace for any serious student of science that all experience is not intellectual. Similarly, all experience is not amenable to human language. The science of Vedanta, developed by those serious seekers of truth, the ancient rishis of India, is based on these well-known facts. The Vedantin is fully convinced that the whole of the reality can neither be grasped by mere human intellect, nor can it be expressed through the limited language of man. But he does not give vent to a cry of despair. Being a serious student of the truth, he attends to experience the truth by extra intellectual and supra intellectual methods, as the whole of the human experience cannot be expressed in the perfect instrument of human language. The Vedantin attempts to convey such experience by suggestive and symbolic language. The Upanishads do not contain barren philosophic hair splitting. They are serious attempts to know the truth and to experience it as observed before. The field of investigation being different from the field of scientific inquiry, the methods of the Upanishads are different. No student of science can quarrel with the fact that he has to use different instruments in different fields of inquiry. A student of social science cannot confine himself to the laboratory and experiment with instruments he has there. He has to adopt a different approach and a different method from the method of the physical scientists. In the same way, the student of the science of religion has to adopt different methods and techniques. The ancient Vedas, based on intuitive human knowledge, experience, and revelation, prescribe both a technique and a hypothesis which the seeker of the truth is expected to adopt. The Vedas are mainly divided into three parts: the mantras, the hymns, and hymns in praise of Vedic gods, and Brahmanas, which describe the technique of the search of the truth, and Aranyakas, which contain the Upanishads, which illustrate and suggest the reality. An outline of the basic presumptions of the Vedanta, the equipment necessary for an instrument of truth, and the basic assumption contained in the Hindu philosophy are outlined in the introduction. The other part contains the text of the Kenopanishad with suitable explanations. The subject matter of the Kenopanishad is an inquiry into the nature of reality, Brahman. The language adopted by the Kenopanishad necessarily had to be a suggestive language. The Kenopanishad suggests the nature of the reality and the preconditions of experiencing it. The Upanishads do not profess to bring the reality into the experience of the seeker, but the high speculation of the Upanishads suggests the nature of the truth and set the seeker to pursue it. It depends on the seeker whether he realizes the absolute truth or not. The Upanishads do not make dogmatic assertions, but they initiate the seeker to the truth, which he is expected to realize by following the technique prescribed. If this is not a scientific approach, what else could it be? Request for 7. Introduction. What is religion? Religion is a privilege of man and not an instinct of animals. To the animal, life is one round of eating, sleeping, and mating. Man, even when he has food, shelter, clothing, and recreation, does not feel satisfied. He yearns for a greater purpose in life. So long as he has not these minimum necessities of food, shelter, clothing, and recreation, his entire personality strives for them. But once these are satisfied, he sits back, as it were, to listen to the muffled voice of inquiry from within. These questionings and innermost cravings of the soul come only to a full grown man. I mean, even among the bipeds, we can recognize the animals. We have among us tigers, wolves, deers, serpents, scorpions, etc. Such men who are lowly evolved fail to listen to the doubts and despairs of the soul quest from within. Having no such inner voiceless woo, they need no remedy, but to one who has evolved himself into a full grown man. Such cravings of the soul flood his being and push him incessantly towards the limit of his understanding and feelings. In the unrest of the soul, he comes to despair at the wonder and majesty of the most intimate fact with him life. The questions he asks himself are whether where did I come from? Where do I go? Why have I come? Is life an empty and meaningless incident? Has life a purpose? Is there a mission in life? Only a full grown man who has lived his days, experiences intelligently, and has throughout kept an alert critical attention upon the incidents of life can attain an inner maturity in which he comes to feel the soul's unrest. Religion is addressed to such an individual. Religion explains, assures, and guides him. It lends a purpose to his day to day existence, far more divine and nobler than mere eating, drinking, sleeping, laughing, and weeping. Every true religion contains two important limbs: one, the ritualistic injunction, and two, philosophical suggestions. The former alone is accepted generally as a religion, rituals, formalities, etc. Religion without philosophy is superstition, and philosophy without religion is barren. Both must go hand in hand. Philosophy reinforces the external practices of rituals and formalities and blesses them with a purpose and an aim. Together they bring out the significance of religion. Religion in its full significance, as for its content, a vivid discussion upon the goal of life and its nature. It is also a description of an elaborate system of spiritual practices by pursuing them which men of all degrees can start from their present status of evolution on the pilgrimage to the goal held out. Vedanta deals vividly and elaborately with truth. Its discussions based upon the intimate and personal experiences of the seers bring us to the conclusion that the Supreme is in man himself, and that man, by removing certain of his misunderstandings about his own identity, can succeed in recognizing himself as the eternal, all pervading truth. All true religions bring to the despairing man, struggling against his own bondages and limitations in life, the comfort and solace he needs so badly. Figuratively, it is something like this. A man who has temporarily lost his memory stands out upon the terrace of his own house and despairs at the gathering darkness and descending chill of the wintry night. He suffers agonies, he weeps, he sighs, he feels helpless and besieged by pain and sorrow. But a few yards behind him is the balcony window kept half open, through which he could see his own warm home, where his bed is kept ready, his dinner is laid, and his beloved is waiting with all devotion and love. He has only to turn around to see the welcoming, comforting, inviting sight of his own luxurious home of sweetness and joy. At will, he can walk in and claim all the bliss as his own birthright. Similarly, man stands on the open terrace of life, looking outward into the deepening darkness, and suffers from cold and loneliness. His own beloved religion invitingly bids him to come in. It reminds him of the discomforts of the terrace and appeals to him to turn back, renounce the terrace, and walk into the lit up halls of joy within, where I shall attain to your every comfort, cries religion. But the mad master of the house hears not the call of religion. The remedy is simple. We have only to turn inwards. As it is, our entire attention is focused on the external material world, and we seek their joy and peace. Naturally, we miss them. The infinite external objects cannot, by their very nature, yield for us our demand, which is in fact an eternal joy, a blissful satisfaction that shall be forever with us. Such a complete ananda and shanti cannot be had out there. They can be had only here within each individual. Turn within, right about turn, and you are face to face with what you are seeking. Is the saintly advice unanimously voiced forth by all the great religions of the world. And it is true, it is true, it is true, is the repeated endorsement that comes to us from all the mystics and masters. The external world, sense objects, has no real joy content. It seems to give us now and then a little joy, but this very sweetness soon gets putrefied to sourness, sourness, and bitterness. In everyone's experience, all circumstances have in themselves an atmosphere of sorrow. Religion promises no magical change in the nature of the sense objects or in the pattern of their arrangements under various circumstances. The world will remain, and the nature of circumstances will continue to function according to the eternal law. Religion enables the faithful only to face life with greater liveliness and tends a psychological balance and a spiritual poise to the individual. The external world of objects remains the same. Only the experiences provided by it are different in different individuals. For example, a father lives with his wife and two sons under the same roof. They eat the same food, cooked in the same kitchen, listen to the same radio, sit, chat, sing, and laugh under the same ceiling fan. But while thus sitting together, one Sunday afternoon after lunch, what is the experience of each? It cannot be very difficult for anyone of us to know that the experience is certainly not the same with all the members of that happy family. If the experiences are different while the objects remain the same, what is the cause for this variety? Can we have a uniform experience? This brings us to the question, what is experience? Is it not the impression left on one when one's mind and intellect come in contact with an object or objects and react with it or them at a given time and place? The same object can give different experiences to the same mind on different occasions, in different places, or in a changed setup. But the one common factor in all experiences is that we must have our minds reacting to the world of objects. We find that the world of objects remains function and play their frolics according to a law over which we have absolutely no control. But objects must come in contact with our mind in order to produce the reaction, which alone is the seed of our experience. So then, if we can control, train, and culture our minds in a way that they can only react positively to all sets of objects and under all sets of circumstances, then our reactions would all be positive. Happiness and peace is his who has thus trained the mind to react positively in the world outside. The outer world remaining the same. In this very world of imperfections and sorrows, we shall have an unbroken experience of sweet solace and full contentment. We shall gain in ourselves the capacity to remain aloof in a safe island within and watch the firestorm of passions that madly blast about all around us. We shall learn to witness in a glorious sense of inner freedom and detachment the very fears and sobs in us. And if we be but true followers of religion, gain through its practices a mental equipment which can seek for itself and gain poise and balance under all circumstances. Thus, understanding the real function of religion and the secret scheme of its blessings, we can approach it with the certainty of gain. What greater gift we can expect of any institution than a hearty presentation of the philosopher's stone, which by its touch can convert all sorrows into joy, all failures into success, and losses into gains. Variations. The sorrows and sighs belong to the ego phantom. Surrender it at the Lord's feet in love. Sublimate the ego in constant vichar, in your discrimination of the real and unreal. The false ego dreams and divinize the ego through an inner revolution brought about by the ending of all the negativities in your character and by surcharging yourself with the dynamic positive values of a true divine life. Religion claims that our real nature is pure knowledge, pure bliss, but the sense of ego has created in us the grievous misunderstanding that we are the ego entities. Whether we like it or not, through a slow process of evolution, we are every hour creeping towards this goal of self realization. Life's experiences are wearing us down in a slow mill of sorrow, only to make us sit up and realize the foolish delusion in which we have to suffer. Wake up, arise, awake, stop not till the goal is reached. This, in short, is the fundamental cry of all religions. Religion is the science of all sciences, since it guides us to the absolute knowledge. Vedanta, the religion of detachment. In our most in one of our most important Upanishads, the Kathopanishad, we have the story of an aspirant reaching the very portico of death, and there, face to face with him, the seeker inquires about the supreme knowledge. This must be the spirit of the true student of Vedanta. Life and death are in reality so close together that it is ordinarily even difficult to distinguish between them. To have the courage to continue seeking even after death is real living to a seeker. Real living to a seeker, if he be honest and persevering, there is no death. It is in this sense that we consider and our Shastras declare that the great saints, sages, incarnations, and prophets are immortal. They are immortal in the sense that they understood the meaning of life and lived that meaning of life. Their physical bodies have perished, yet they live. How is that possible? Let me explain this. An ant living in a salt hill made a friend of his from a sugar mill. The fat, corpulent, cheerful sugar mill ant inquired in sympathy and friendship if there was famine in the salt hill. For the latter was thin, emaciated, and melancholy. During the meeting, it was decided that the salt hill ant should visit the home of a fat friend from the sugar mill. While packing for the trip to the sugar mill, the salt hill ant carried a few days' ration with it. Even after a couple of days, stay in the Mount of Sugar, the salt hill ant looked all the more depressed and unhappy. His host was anxious and worried. On inquiry for the cause of his depression, the salt hill ant replied, "Friend, there is every comfort here, but the taste of your food does not suit me. It was a shocking surprise to the host. If sugar, which is all but sweetness, is not sweet to the friend, he wondered, what else can taste sweet for him? On closer inquiry, it was discovered that the salt hill ant had still some salt bits in his mouth. It was, however, persuaded to spit them out, and then lo, the very same sugar which was not sweet before became the sweetest thing the salt hill ant had ever tasted. We are all in life acting and suffering as true salt hill ants. Spit out the saline contents of the heart, then taste the sugar of the divine life, which is nothing but sweetness. End all thy fears, limitations, disappointments, and come to enjoy the joyous, unlimited, hopeful existence. This is the call of the Vedanta, the religion of detachment. Detach yourselves from the salt bits, and you shall come to taste the amount of sugar. There are in us two distinct personalities, the God and the man. The birthright of manhood is the experiences of limitations and death. In its very nature, Godhood is unlimited and immortal. Our attachment to the false negativities in us, the manhood, is the cause of all the salty and melancholia. Detach yourself from the manhood, you regain Godhood. This is the theory of Vedanta and Upanishads. Jnana Yajna is an attempt to convince ourselves that by ending the man in us, we gain the God within. If there be an enemy concealed in us, who is the cause of our imbecilities and sorrows, the sooner we unearth and destroy him, the earlier we shall come to realize our aim. Who is then the enemy? Anonymously, all the Shastras and scriptures cry, it is the ego. Kill this little I to live. End the ego and end the war. If the ego in us is the samsarin, if ego is the tormentor, if ego is the enemy, let us spy on him more closely and come to know who he is. Once we know our enemy, we can plan our war against it. Each of you, now please ask this question to yourself. Who is this? Or what constitutes this ego sense in me? Is not the I personality in each of us nothing but the memories of certain facts of life lived in the past, such as I am the son of so and so, educated, lived, loved, hated, taught, etc., etc. In short, I am the sum total of all the retained memories of all the vivid experiences I have had in the past. The I concept includes also my hopes for the future. Pursuing our inquiry further, we shall, on analysis of the memory, bits and hope flakes, discover that they have only a reality with reference either to the dead past or the unborn future. That means the ego in me has no existence in the present moment. It thrives in the burial ground of the dead hours and in the womb of time. So then, this ego is in fact a myth, a non entity, a dream, an insubstantial nothing, a phantom, a mere false shadow. All the sorrow and mortality belong to this shadow of our own reality, and in our own thoughtlessness we have surrendered ourselves to the endless tyranny of this shadow of ours lurking within ourselves. Detach yourself from this shadow. Know thy real self. Kill the tyrant within us. It will bring the real Ramarajya in your bosoms. This is the clarion call of Vedanta. The methods of eliminating this ghost within us are the processes advocated by all religions. Every spiritual practice is an attempt at the total elimination of this shadow nothingness within us. All Shastras serve only to teach us the unreality of the non existent. It is by a process of superimposition that the unreal has come to veil the real. Superimposition is a mental trick, a jugglery of our minds, by which it comes to misunderstand a thing to be something different than what it is in reality. The famous example is of the serpent and the rope. In the darkness, a man mistakes a rope for a serpent and suffers from the false agonies of a snake bite. Any amount of assurance that it is not a serpent but is in fact only a rope given to the deluded sufferer will not comfort him. He will have to be led to the place and shown the rope. The moment he recognizes the rope, the myth of the serpent that bit him disappears. The serpent idea rose only in his mind. The serpent born in his mind was removed when the knowledge of the rope dawned upon him. The serpent rose from his ignorance of the rope, and when this ignorance is removed by knowledge, the serpent born of ignorance is also removed. So too, in our ignorance of our own reality, we have the superimposition in ourselves of the ego. The ego is ended with the knowledge of the self in us. As the knowledge of the rope ended the agonies of the deluded victim, so too with the knowledge of the self, the painful agonies of the ego jiva end. Detach the ego and claim Shanti, which is our essential nature. The ego in us is but a bundle of memories of our experiences lived by us in the past and our hopes to be fulfilled by us in the future. Without reference to these two, the dead past and the unborn future, if we live vitally and dynamically the present moments in themselves, we have achieved the annihilation of the ego. The self living in full detachment from ego, in the self as the self, is the samadhi state advocated and claimed by all the different yogas as their sole and sublime goal. All yogas end in eliminating the ego in the sadhakas. The yogas advocate different methods to suit different temperaments Yet their aim is the same: self realization, the kingdom of perfection. We shall now analyze one or two parts of yoga and examine how they succeed in bringing about this annihilation of the ego in the yogin aspirants, one who practices yoga. Act without any expectations of the fruits of action, and thy achievements shall be supreme, is the injunction of Gita. Readers superficially glancing at this idea might wonder how this can be practicable. Let us examine this theory in application and see if it can be practical. Suppose we have an agent who has an appointment with an industrial magnate to strike a business deal for lakhs of rupees, and thereby he stands to gain a substantial commission. If the day before the appointment the poor agent allows himself to be hypnotized by his own expectations, if he dreams of the amounts he would be getting, the ways in which he would spend the income in purchasing a house, in marrying the girl of his choice, in living happily, etc., etc., he would be indeed a great loser, for on the appointed day, at the appointed hour, when the agent enters the drawing room of the business magnate, his mental faculties, alertness, cheerfulness, clarity, and poise, which are so essential in the makeup of a successful agent, would all be totally dried up in him. He has by then imagined himself to be already living in his new house with his new wife, etc., acquired from the income of his transaction. The responsibility of maintaining and protecting this hope for fruits shackles him in such strong bondages of fears that he trembles at the thought of not realizing them through a possible fallout with the capitalist. Nerve shattered, pale, and trembling, he enters the room, carrying a storm within him, and in his anxiety, he forgets half the points he had to emphasize, fails to canvass convincingly, with the result that the business is lost. On the other hand, another agent under the same circumstances proves successful, for he is intelligent enough to reject the anxieties for the fruits and not to indulge in futile dreams over them, and acts with ease and poise. He is jovial and almost cheeky with the business magnate, who is attracted and charmed by the young man's dash and smartness. The bargain is struck with hearty handshakes and pleasant smiles. If renunciation of attachment to fruits is a guarantee for sure success in the marketplace bargaining, how much more so it must be in all the nobler and greater fields of man's social and national activities. Rejecting the fruits act, let us not waste our faculties and potentialities in worrying over the unborn future. Act on, act on in the living present. But this is not so. readily possible unless we have a strong faith in the understanding that Lord is the real conductor and the accomplisher. We are actors in His drama. We are His servants executing His will in the fulfillment of His plans. The fruits are His, and ours is only the action. And the more we get aligned with Him, the more shall our actions be in line with His will, and thereby we shall be fulfilling His plans more effectively. Thus, by continuously surrendering to His will and living as His instrument, we come to forget the false ego in us. When once the ego, the man, has ended its career, what remains is the intimate personal experience of the divinity in us. Fall flat at His feet in love and surrender. When the ego sense is thus offered at His feet, the mortal limitations end, and the bhakta, devotee, who has done thus a full and complete Atma Arpanam, self surrender, becomes the Lord. All yogas aim at the extinction of the ego sense in the yogin. When the sense of jivahood ends, the sense of godhood begins. Recognize, re-see. Let us come to remember our own real nature. Let us stop dreaming with such ideas as I am poor, I am a mortal, I am rich, I am wise, I am a samsari, etc. The one way to end the shadow in front of us is to turn our gaze towards the light within. If we cannot all of a sudden do so, let us then do the easier act of self surrender. The taller we are, the longer shall be our shadow. Bend double, the shadow is half. Sit down, the shadow is still smaller. Fell flat at His feet in love and surrender, and the shadow is no more. End the shadow in us, this ego, by surrendering unto Him, the Atman, the Self in us. Detach the false ego from the true Self. Detach the mind from memories and hopes. Cleanse your bosom all of desires. Desirelessness is the state of perfection. Egolessness is the state of Godhood. Attain this supreme goal of life, through knowledge and right living. Our relationship with the Absolute. To the ordinary man, his body is himself. His identification with the body is deep and strong. He lives for the body, strives for the body, and knows no other mission in life than sensuous joys. To such a one, living such a low level of existence, the only relationship he could have with the Absolute must be one of separativeness and slavery. There is yet another class of men who have slightly grown up and have come to recognize that they are not only the bodies but also creatures endowed with mind and intellect. Such men have therefore come to recognize the existence and the workings of the philosophical personalities in them. To them, personalities in him. To them, they being not merely their bodies, man is not a perishable, ineffectual worm, but is a sacred creature possessing almost godly powers, evident in the manifestations of the mind and the intellect. They review the achievements of science and poetry. They recognize the thinkers and discoverers. They take into account the total victory man has so far gained over the mighty nature and come to the conclusion that man, as a thinking creature who has a glory and a might, is not such inferior to the gods. Thus, to men of this degree of development, their relationship with the Absolute is that they are a part of the whole. Based on the above concept of the two classes of men, we have in our philosophy two views of life and approaches to truth: the dualism of Sri Madhvacharya and the qualified monism of Sri Ramanuja. The former concludes that the Lord and his devotee would ever remain as two distinct entities, and the relationship of the devotee to the Lord is one of complete surrender in love and reverence. The supreme goal of man is the reaching his feet and eternally remaining there, ever in his seva. The latter, however, argues in a different line and arrives at the conclusion that the devotee is a part of the whole, the Lord. It is only in the daring declarations of a perfect philosophy, the philosophy that discusses the vital and final experience of man in the realms of the spiritual, the Vedanta, that we find an unequivocal, emphatic declaration that man is God. To a student of dualism and qualified monism, this may appear fantastic, for the former views truth with reference to his body, while the latter views truth from the psychological personality. The perfect student of Vedanta has reached the master after discovering in his discrimination that neither his body nor his psychological personality can be sufficiently sacred and divine as to satisfy himself. He has come to feel that some power subtler than the mind and the intellect is playing hide and seek within him, and that it is really the dynamic life center which vitalize the other coatings of matter that come to envelop and hide it. The Guru endorses the disciples' vague and accidental conclusions. The Vedantic seer provides the disciple with arguments and convictions and leads him to his seat of life, the self, that lies within the seeker himself. When the disciple comes to understand fully the depth and significance of the Guru's mystical words and comes vitally and intensely to first hand experience the great grand truth that he is that, he gains perfect knowledge. To such a one, in his perfection, he is but that, as that he has once for all dropped all his wrong identifications with his body or his psychological entity. He becomes pure spirit, and as spirit, his relationship with the Absolute is one of perfect identity. There cannot be perfect relationship, as relationship denotes the existence of at least a pair of things. Though the Vedantic student sought truth within himself, yet in his discovery of it, as though in his own bosom, he experiences himself as the whole. This type of student is served by the school of philosophy called non dualism of Shankara. These three kinds of our relationships with truth have been beautifully described in Ramayana when Hanuman, the greatest devotee of Sri Ramachandra, explains his relationship with Sri Ramachandra. Hanuman says, O Lord, at moments when I am steeped in my body consciousness, I am thy slave. When I identify myself with the mind and intellect, that is, as a jiva, I am a part of thee. And when I am in my swarupa, that is, as the spirit, I am thyself. Thus, our relationship with the Absolute can be explained in three different ways according to our state of self consciousness. There are moments when even the greatest seer is conscious of the sorrows of physical pains and even of the inclemencies, inclemencies, inclemencies of weather. At such moments, even a jnani falls prostrate at his feet and mentally seeks the mercy of the Lord. There are moments when he is conscious of some inner mental agitation, an irresistible poetic outburst, or high intellectual flight, and recognizes within himself a might and a power almost equivalent to that of the Lord. It is only in those rare moments of bliss and peace in samadhi when he has completely retired from the false outer covering of the matter to the subtlest of the subtle spirit within, that he recognizes and cries forth, Shivoham, Shivoham. I am that. The individual and the absolute constitute one perfect whole. It must also be clear to you that all three schools of Hindu philosophy are not competing and contradicting theories, but that each explains a necessary stage which must pass through in our slow pilgrimage to the peak of perfection. It is only intellectual pundits who quarrel and seek to establish one or the other declaration and fight over them. In fact, the moment we step onto the path of spiritual sadhana, we realize that these three are the three wayside inns for spiritual pilgrims to rest and to proceed ahead. Every pilgrim must first visit Madhva, from where he proceeds to worship Ramanuja, and then alone can he reach the portals of Vedanta and recognize himself to be no other than Sri Shankara himself. Let us therefore stop our quarrels, let us act, let us embark on the pilgrimage and see for ourselves what is our relationship with the Absolute. The path. We start today the study of Upanishads. The study is called Brahma Vidya, just as various branches of knowledge similar to physics, chemistry, geography, etc., are the themes of our different studies. This is also a branch of knowledge, and it too has a special name, which is Brahma Vidya. The only difference between Brahma Vidya and the other subjects of study is that Brahma Vidya is the Vidya of all the Vidyas. It is the science of all sciences. The theme of Brahma Vidya explains other sciences. Brahma Vidya teaches us that which is the goal of all sciences. In chemistry, we carry our experiments in order to find out the element, the source of all other elements. If we once find out such an element in nature, out of which we can create all other elements in the world, then there is no more research in chemistry. Thereafter, the role of research in chemistry would be only to find out what are the reactions of the various combinations. Once we reach the element, the eternal element, the first and the last element, out of which all other elements have come, and in which all elements stay. We have found out all that is to be discovered in chemistry. We are here to seek the source of life, the one reality. We shall be satisfied with the truth from which the world and one experience and our experiences have risen up, and in which they exist, and into which our experiences of the life from moment to moment get merged in it. It is the fundamental substratum, the foundation, the reality behind the seeming appearances. We are seeking the goal, the one single goal, which can explain not only the poverty of the poor, but also the wealth and the might of the rich and the powerful. It explains not merely the workings of the senses and emotions, but also the total experience of life. It explains not merely the physical body and the forms we see around us, but also how the mind works and with what potency it functions. Thus, we are trying to delve deeper and deeper into the very source of life in us. Seeking the truth, we go from the gross to the subtlest. From the gross external world, we are slowly and carefully going into the center, which is very subtle. The subtler the theme, the more difficult it would be to explain it, and equally so for the listeners to understand. Our inquiry then shall be fruitful only if we adopt a very systematic method. It is not haphazard conclusions that are given to us in Upanishads by some unknown rishis. The conclusions in the Upanishads are not dictatorial orders thrust upon us to believe that there is a supreme reality. The rishis help us to go step by step into the very portals of the truth. They teach us how to turn the key, open the doors, and enter the temple of truth. It is no easy task to explain the inexplicable. It is only the gross objects that can be expressed and explained in words. In the Upanishads, the masters attempt to show us the reality only through the significance of words. We should not go to the organized Upanishads with the idea that we shall grasp Brahma Vidya with our mind and intellect. Mind and intellect are only two shoes that we may wear, but at the doors of the mightiest of the mighty, we will have to keep them away. We shall walk in and reach the portals of God with bare feet. At His doors we leave them and enter in all reverence. Thus, we will have to progress in stages in our study, and hence, if we come here with the boastful attitude of a collegian, we may miss the exact import of Vedanta. We will have to come prepared with the mind and an intellect, sharpened and trained to work for a higher purpose. Truth is not a factor thrust upon us. There is no force used at all. It is through logical reasoning and analysis of the values of the external world and its conditions that we slowly get away from the false sense objects step by step and ultimately reach the real. Generally, there is a feeling that the spiritual life of God seeking is meant for those persons who are physically deformed or mentally hysterical or intellectually abnormal, or for those persons who in life are ridden with disappointments and disastrous calamities. When we fail in life, we run frantically to religion. There is a general belief that religion is an open door for all, the scum of society. This is absurd. Those who hold such views know not what religion is. Religion is not for the unworthy, unintelligent, and the abnormal. Religion is for the most level headed and balanced men, spiritually, psychologically, and physically sound men. Cowards cannot progress in spiritual life. Spiritual life is meant for those persons who enjoy good health and have a healthy physical equipment. It is meant for that man who is alert in mind and intellect and who has a deep craving for the soul. When such thirsty, full blossomed human beings who have lived life fully can come to vairagya or detachment only Only such thirsty, full blossomed human beings who have lived life fully can come to Vairagya or detachment. Now, before going into the study of the Upanishads, I shall discuss some of the general topics which are necessary for the right understanding of the Upanishadic textbooks. In all sciences, we have certain fundamentals to be learned first, and then only can the student understand the experiments conducted and the conclusions arrived at. Similarly, we too shall first go through some of the Vedanta prakriyas, some of the fundamental principles of Vedanta, which have been reduced into laws and upon which the entire Vedanta, the science of truth, is built up. As in every branch of study, the student of Brahma Vidya also must have certain preliminary qualifications if he is to enter the Vedanta hall to hear the discourses with benefit and profit by them. This is nothing new, but when it is put under the grave term sadhana chatushtaya, the four qualifications necessary for a student, we are apt to feel surprised and uncomfortable. On a little closer analysis, we shall find that we all already have these qualifications. The four qualifications necessary are: 1. Viveka, or capacity to discriminate the real from the unreal, the truth from the false, the object from its shadow. Who has not got this? We may not have it playing in the higher realms of thought, but we all have this faculty of discrimination. We are not mere worms and animals. We are a cultured society of young people who can apply their power of discrimination in everyday life. Second, Vairagya or detachment is a quality of mind which enables one to get detached from the false and painful things. Do not be frightened away with false notions about Vairagya. Who among us has not got Vairagya? When the intellect has come to a sure and definite understanding and is consequently fully aware that a given thing is but a shadow and a valueless, paltry nothing, the mind naturally gets detached from it. Intellectual conviction of the truth and the desirability of things are prerequisites absolutely necessary for the mental attachment for those things For example, if in a dream you get married to a lovely lady, on waking you cannot maintain your love and attachment for her. The moment you are awakened, you realize the falsehood of the dream love, and so your mind rolls off from the lady of the dream. The detachment gained as a result of a knowledge of the untrue nature of the object is Vairagya. And he who has Vairagya is a fit student of Vedanta. This faculty for dispassion is in man, and the Shrutis make use of it. Gradually, the untrue nature of the world is realized by a keen student of the Shrutis, and then and then dispassion in him becomes natural and intense. The function of the Upanishads is not merely a negative one, one of removing us from the world. It also opens up for our view a greater world of perfection to be achieved. The two other necessary qualifications to enter this yajna university are noble qualities of head and heart. Sadhana, sadhana sampat, and burning yearning to become perfect and powerful. Mumukshutva. What is there that we cannot realize? A fit student of Vedanta would start his inquiries by asking from where the world has come and where will it go. When once we understand the outer sense organs, the indriyas, step by step, the seeker slowly comes to the center within himself from the outer world. To a man born blind, there is no form. To a deaf man, it would appear that the cannon is only fuming but not roaring. In order to enjoy tastes and smells, one needs the tongue and the nose. In their absence, his world shall be without any taste or smell. Thus, if you take away the five indriyas, there is no world at all for us. The world would appear as an existent nothing. Our conception of the outer world is gained through our indriyas. Next, the inquirer comes to inquire how his mind works, how his intellect works, and from where the joy element bubbles forth in him, thus seeking on from the gross outer world to subtler and still subtler inner spirit. He moves in the world. In Vedanta, each of these grosser external coatings is called a sheath, kosha, and just as the sheath determined, just as the sheath merely encases the sword blade, here too the reality within is untouched by the matter covering it. Our body forms the grossest encumbrance. The physical sheath and slightly subtler is the pranamaya kosha or the vital air sheath. Subtler still is the mental sheath. In Vedanta, the word subtle denotes a greater pervasiveness, vyapakatvam. Still more subtle than the mind is the intellectual sheath, and the subtler Still is the bliss sheath, the seat of all joy waves in us. Hari Om. We continue after some time. Hari Om Shri Chinmaya Sadgurave Namaha.